I'm Jesse Itzler, and you're on Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of the show. Jesse, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor. I've been bird dogging you for a while, been a big fan from afar, watching your hustle. You're one of the GOATs, and it's incredible. I mean, the depth and the breadth of your work is more than impressive. But I guess the first question I want to ask, before I ask how you got this job, is, you sort of started off things as rapping Jesse James, then selling a private jet empire. Now you're doing this running event. You've done all these things, but what's the throughput? What's the through line to this creativity, to those different versions of yourself? From one spectrum, getting started to now where you're at as a seasoned veteran.
I love newness. I love challenges. I love projects that I'm enthusiastic about. I think the common thread between everything in my entrepreneurial journey has been I had no prior experiences in the businesses that I've been in. I had a private jet company. I was involved in a coconut water company, music industry, fitness, and I had no business experience. So I love figuring things out and doing things differently than everybody else. And I think that's the theme that's it's actually a gift, Brian, because when you do that, you're paving your own path and you're guaranteed to look differently than your competition. And that's been the theme throughout my journey.
So where do you think that comes from? Let's go back in the chronology to early, young Jesse. What were you thinking about being when you grow up? What were your dreams?
Well, it's funny. I only wanted to have three things when I became an entrepreneur. I wanted to have enough money that I could go on a 2-week vacation. I was like, if I could go on a 2-week vacation anywhere in the world, that would it's worth working 50 weeks to have 2 weeks off. I wanted to have my own swimming pool one day. I'm like, if I don't have to go to the public swimming pool, that would be amazing. And I want to be able to grow my own fruit. And once I could get those things, I wanted something new and more and bigger, but I started out really just wanting to have my own independence of my time and et cetera. And, yeah, I think that's really, I don't know. I wasn't, I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family. Um, I was really kind of on my own after college and had to figure it out. And I tried a million different things that didn't work and slept on my friends' couches while I was doing it, just to kind of save money. And yeah, and then bounced around with a lot of failures until I finally figured out something that worked. I think for me, the big thing is I stayed in the game long enough. I didn't quit. I just kind of kept going. Even when my book came out, I shot this to 15 publishers. They all said no. But because of my early journey, I was so used to disappointment and used to no, I kept going until book company 16 gave me a shot. So that's always been the theme.
Yeah, was this the book based on your experience as a monk, or was this with David Goggins or
With
the?
Goggins.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Everybody passed on it until a small little publisher gave us a shot and that book became a bestseller.
Isn't it interesting? I almost feel like, this is sort of now me pontificating to the audience and us together. Isn't it interesting? Seems like, some of the signals about whether or not something is going to be successful is if you have a high degree of rejection. Like if if all the right people are saying no, you might be onto something. Because that's
Yeah.
like a pattern.
I think it gives you a strong conviction that you have to believe in the end of your story, and even if other people aren't believing it, and saying no or rejection, you still have to believe that, look, if you're single, you have to believe he or she's out there. If you're looking for a job, you have to believe you're the person that deserves that job. If you're writing a book, you have to believe people want to read it. And if you don't do that, it makes it's hard enough, right?
Yeah.
It's double as hard if you don't have that conviction and belief.
Yeah. Have you seen that Snoop Dogg clip that's super popular? I think when he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So you're right. It's like, if you're not your biggest fan, then how do you expect other people to be?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so, I mean, that resonates with me a lot. And it's not because I'm talented. It's because I have no other choice but to be scrappy and sort of make straw into gold myself. I don't often get picked, or at least maybe I'm not patient enough to wait to get picked. So I just create it myself and I jump in. But So talk about that experience. Like, so let's focus on the Goggins thing. Um, you hung out with David Goggins, who's, arguably the toughest man on the planet.
Right.
Uh, iconic, prolific, the GOAT in his own right. But like, how do you then sort of like farmer's market and cherry pick? Because no one can be Goggins, right? Like, there's only one Goggins, I think.
Right.
But you could cherry pick from what he offers. And so how do you know how to audit that and like take what you need? How did you approach that?
Well, I didn't go into it with that, like, I'm going to cherry pick. They always say that, surround yourself with like-minded people, and that's true. But I feel like you learn so much more from people that aren't like-minded, people that are great at what they do in areas that you want to learn about. And that's what I want. I wanted to get like a double dose of mindset quickly. So for me, my job was to be a sponge and just observe, listen, try, and whatever tips or tools I could pick up. My whole life is like that, Ryan. I'm a compilation of when I had Marquis Jet, we flew 3,000 of the who's who of entrepreneurs and pop culture. And, I was 29, 30 years old in my 30s, and I would ask them a lot of questions. What time do you get up? Where do you vacation? How do you live rich? Like, I wanted to know. And I would just try different things that they said, and some stuff stuck and some stuff didn't. And I'm a compilation of those winning habits now. So it was the same thing with Goggins. I was looking for the winning habits that would help my life and the buckets that matter me the most in my life get better. So as throughout our 30-day journey, when you live with me, I learned a lot about not quitting. I learned a lot about there's so much more in your tank when you think you're done, that you have so much more left. And those are the principles from him that I just still use now, 10, 20 years later.
Yeah. So were you always this athlete? I mean, I know that you're part owner in the Atlanta Hawks. I know that you wrote that iconic anthem for the Knicks. You're a big basketball guy. I know you're a runner, but were you always an athlete growing up?
Athlete is I've never won anything in my life, not even close. I'm back of the pack and I think of 60,000 marathon runners in New York. I came in like 57, like 50,000 place. So athlete's a stretch, but yeah, I mean, I grew up going in the neighborhood playing sports, high school sports, a big sports fan, a big fan of like team. Um, but I didn't get into running until I got older in my 20s and 30s. And I've run a couple of 100-mile races and longer races. And that was something, what I realized was in these ultra marathons, I can't win anything because I'm never going to be in the NBA. I'm never going to be a pro anything. But these races that are really long distances aren't about, are you a good runner? They're all about will. And I realized like I have a lot of will. And if I could sharpen my will muscles, I could translate that into business and other buckets. The perfect example of like the will to keep going when 14 or 15 people say, you don't have a book here. Like that is a direct byproduct of being an ultra marathon runner, being a marathon runner, and just like wanting to quit, but never quitting. It all translates. The more you can do things that take your grit baseline up, let's say everyone's born with some kind of level of grit. Maybe it's on a 1 to 10, maybe you're a 7 or 6, I'm a 3. When you do things hard, you take that baseline up and it never goes back down. So I found that living with Goggins, doing these, they're just little things that keep that baseline right where it needs to be and trending in the right direction.
I think it's still a debate for me because so I had author James Clear on. James wrote that book Atomic Habits, great book.
Yeah.
And he would argue with us because I'm sort of in your camp that a lot of this is willpower. That when you're running or playing sports, I grew up as an athlete. We all basically have the same genetics. Some are anomalies and they're just monsters. And, but at the same time, we all have the same amount of tired and fatigue. We got to learn where to put it. And, it's like right here, how to focus that and how to channel it. But James would say, well, willpower is finite, right? And so you don't fail to the level of your willpower. You fail to the level of your process. So he would talk about process as like the game changer. Do you have any processes that you sort of mixed now with with willpower and like, how do you see that?
I mean, for sure. I mean, my process, my routines, and my habits are the backbone of everything. And they're constantly evolving, and I'm always asking people about their process, so I can try to get better. Like one thing that I'm terrible at is emails. I don't have a great system with email. I don't have a great system of getting back to people. And I'm constantly asking people about their process and trying to get better. I mean, I think that's critical. I have different processes for different things. I plan my entire year in advance. I sell a 365-day calendar all on one piece of paper called a big ass calendar. My process is to put as much of the things I want to do on it first, which is the opposite of what most people do. They fill up their calendar with Zoom call of appointments. I mean, they don't have to show up at the end of the year. So I have a very good process for planning my year out and really having, scripting an incredible year. I teach people how to do it through this big ass calendar, but process to me is critical in every career.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've seen that calendar. I love the idea. I love the calendar. It looks great. And it's amazing psychologically what happens when you put things that you look forward to on the map, right? You're
Yep.
like, oh, I can't wait. Even if it's a small thing, like, oh, going out to dinner with my wife. You look forward to that. And so does she. Or, if you have that trip planned with the family. Um, so tell me, like, what are two things that you do that are total opposites of each other that may not be so intuitive? Like, I assume that you're eating right, and you're probably getting the right amount of sleep because you're doing all this running around 100-mile races. But what are two things that are opposite?
Well, I do eat super clean, but I give it all back in chocolate at night. So that's pretty opposite. Um, you know, I invest. I feel like we all at the end of the day have one job, and that's to stay healthy. There's an old saying, if you have health, you have hope. If you have hope, you have everything. And if you have a sore throat and $1 billion, every time you swallow, all you think about is your sore throat. You're not thinking about your $1 billion. And so that's really important. And I invest a lot in my health, in what I eat, and my exercise and all that. But I don't do a great job on my sleep. So sleep's a big component of it. All kinds of data and research in the last couple of years have proven that. And that's something where I do a really good job in a lot of the areas, but it's not really, if you're not getting quality sleep, you're minimizing the impact that you're having on and the investment you're making on the other side. And there's areas of like that for all of us, and where we put so much energy, but then like we put a pin in it and deflate it because the other side, we're doing something wrong or giving it back. A lot of people work really hard, but they don't work really smart. A lot of people, spend a lot of time exercising, but then they don't eat great, and maybe they're clogging their artery. So really trying to figure out the pain points and getting better at that is something that I try to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once a couple of those key things are clicking, then you have this flywheel effect that one thing starts positively affecting the other. And then I think that's how, because I talk to a lot of high, performers here, probably talk to 500 of the top brains and performers in the world, and you're one of them. And that's the common thread is they're trying to level up even just 1%, but putting certain pieces together that can help that flywheel effect get the momentum going that gives them the edge over everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, let's change gears just a little bit. So this show's called Behind the Brand. People come here to learn how to build their brand. My audience, they're hard chargers. They're working hard, they're playing hard. Uh, they're running companies. Some of them are working for big companies, but a lot of them, I think, are either doing their own thing right now or they're aspiring to do it. Let's start with Jesse's definition of what is a brand, and then the next question is going to be, what is Jesse's personal brand?
I mean, I never really think about what is a brand. I think it's the way people perceive, it's the story you build, it's the way that customers and the world perceives you. It's your mission. I mean, it's a combination of all those things. It's what you stand for, what people think you stand for, and how you operate are all components of what goes into a brand. I mean, my brand isn't, I'm not trying to build a brand. I, I just live my life. I think in it, what maybe is perceived as a unique way, and then I share it. And people can, the same way that I ask people for habits and process, people can pick the habits or processes that I use, whether it's in business or fitness or parenting or whatever, to get little nuggets that maybe can help their process. But I never like, I'm out, I don't have a brand director. I don't give that any thought. I show my life in the most authentic way through socials and through newsletters and through speaking, and people can choose what they want.
Yeah, I
I don't
like that.
put myself as a brand, Brian. I struggle with where I am in the world, because like to me, I've been operating the same way for 30 years. It's just the stage is bigger now. But I've only had fruit until noon. It's the only thing I eat until 12 o'clock noon for 35 years.
Mm.
It's just the way I don't do it for clicks. I don't do it for brand. I do it because that's how that's the process where I operate the best. If people want to try it and it works for them, great. Hey, for the audience, I read a book called Fit for Life in the 90s that changed my life and taught me why and why I should do that and challenged me to try it for 10 days. And I loved it. Here I am. So that's what I do. I just put out information of best practices and hope that people enjoy or try. Maybe it resonates with some people. And that's it. And the brand comes behind that.
Yeah. And I think you're in the same camp. When I talked to Seth Godin about this, he pushed back really hard to Brian. I'm a human being. I am not a brand. How dare you? And I said,
Yeah.
I respect that. But at the same time, my opinion is like you have to stand for something. And if you don't, then people are going to make assumptions or put labels on you. And so I think, whether it's a consumer brand or a personal brand, and it sounds like we agree on this, that you have to be deliberate about your actions, and you have to at least, have the self-awareness enough to know that people are watching you, even if you don't think that they are. And especially if you're putting content out there, then you are building a personal brand. And I think going back to what you just said about what a brand is in general, a brand is a shorthand for what you stand for. So as long as you are walking the talk, everything's going to be great because there's no contradictions, right? It's when you start trying to front, right, and put on airs or pretend to be someone you're not, then you get caught, with your pants down doing something you shouldn't, and then people call you out on it, and then you have all kinds of problems. But I want to understand, because you seem to understand this really well about branding and brands. You've built several companies which have become, brands in themselves. Tell me about the running program, the brand that you're building right now around running, and what that looks like. How you're deliberately thinking about how to position that in the market, or how you're presenting it to everyone. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, my wife always says that entrepreneurs do one of two things. They either create something that doesn't exist, or they take something that exists and they make it wildly better. They improve on it. And, I've been running for 30 years. And for the last 30 years, it's been go to a race, run the race, get a medal, go home, and the world is shifting to experiences. It's an experience economy. People are paying for experiences, adventures. And I wanted to marry that wave of experiences with running. We created a festival called Running Man. It's coming up with September 12th through 14th in Georgia. And it's like the ultimate wellness festival. It's 3 days. We brought in, expert speakers on health, wellness, nutrition, etc. There's breakout sessions for yoga, gym. You can do everything there. It's basically and run. There's a running component to it too.
Wait, no,
And
wait. So is this different than your hill climb, that
yeah,
fun event? Yeah.
it's different. It's a 3-day festival that's open to the public. But what we're doing is basically revolutionizing the way people experience wellness, making it fun, making it a festival, et cetera. So I've taken my passion, which is running and exercising and community. I love people and networking and meeting people. I love business. And I put them all into this 3-day festival. So we created this brand and it's called Running Man.
Yeah. I mean, sounds awesome. And so, what types of people come, and what are they looking like? What are they looking to accomplish? Are they coming for community? Are
They're
they
coming.
coming to?
Good question. We get some people that are coming to run. There's one of the events that we put on is you have 8 hours on a track. You can use as much or as little as you want. to run or walk as far as you want. So some people run a mile, do a yoga class, have lunch, run 3 miles, and they leave with a half marathon medal in a very unique way. Um, so that's really cool. But we attract some runners, but we attract people that just want to meet people, learn. I mean, it's a one stop for wellness. You can try the latest wearables, hear from the owners of the companies, of the latest wearables and technologies and supplements. The best runners, recovery, sleep experts are talking at this event. But it's also so ridiculously fun. Like we had built the world's biggest sauna. It's 4,000 square feet, 300 people and a DJ go in it, and we program it. There's camping, there's hotels or tents you can choose. There's concerts. It's friggin' amazing. So it gets everything. I mean, people are walking and making business deals on the track during the run. It's just like a very unconventional, safe way to experience health.
So I think we come full circle. I think this is a very Jesse branded event.
It is.
I mean,
It's got my fingerprints all over it.
yeah, yeah. And so, and I think, bringing it back to, me preaching a little bit about how important it is to be deliberate about brand. Brands are distinct. Brands are unique. And these days, it's, I think, even more critical to be different than it is to be better. So, a lot of these car companies that I see, it's like, hey, our car's got 500 cc's, and the next one's like, well, ours got 550, and then we got leather seats. So it's like you're trying to work on better, but better is not better. It's really the same. You got to be different, distinct, unique. And I think that's what a brand is all about. And so for those people who are thinking or in the process of building their own thing, take a page from Jesse's playbook here. I mean, you've been doing this arguably your whole life. This is just all coming now together in this sort of great, looks like a stew of all the ingredients that you've already been playing with for a while, right? Like the wellness part, the sauna. Do you sell sauna, like the hot hats?
We do.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love sauning. I only discovered the benefits of sauna like maybe 5-6 years ago. But you're incorporating all these things that you've sort of honed and perfected, and you're bringing people together. I think it's really smart.
I appreciate that.
Wha- What's something that you have done recently that sort of pushed you out of your comfort zone?
Well, I have something coming up. I'm going to swim across Lake Tahoe with some friends in late September, early October.
Chili.
Yeah, chilly, far, cold. That's
Are you gonna wear a
But
wetsuit?
I'll wear a wetsuit. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
A year ago, I mean, most of the stuff that I do that makes me the most uncomfortable is physical. But on the other side, I still get scared when I speak in public. I do a lot of public speaking, but I still always, had that doubt and fear. I stay pretty good in the I'm uncomfortable bucket, just between trying new ventures, um, and asking myself how we could do it better, etc. So I check that box of like getting out of my comfort zone, which I think is really important. I mean, people say you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I don't. That's true, and I don't know if people really understand what that means. And it's not just a saying. But as an entrepreneur, my entire journey was based on being uncomfortable, on like, can I make payroll? Is this going to work? You put a book out, are the reviews going to stink? Am I going to get 1-star reviews? Like, there's always pressure, and pressure is not a bad thing. And I don't run from pressure. Actually love pressure. It weeds out the competition. I know if I'm scared, a lot of people are going to be too scared to even try it. So I kind of run towards those kind of things versus away from it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm interested in psychology, the way my own brain works, why I do the things I do or think the things I can. And something I read recently said this about stress, that statistically, the people who think that stress is positive end up having a positive experience. Go figure. And the people who label stress as negative, they do worse, right?
Right.
So if you can embrace that idea of, all right, this is hard, and I'm not feeling very well about this. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but let's go for it. You're statistically going to have a better outcome.
Right.
Yeah. So interesting. So what do you think it is that you notice that most people don't? Because From the outside looking in, and again, we're cut from the same cloth. I've done so many things, not as many as you by far, but I have the same, at least spirit about me, willingness to try new things I haven't done. But what do you think that you notice that people don't, which enables you to sort of jump onto these what seem like very eclectic opportunities, from private jet company to, writing jingles, to then starting this, Running Man event. Like, it seems all over the place, but at the same time, I see the cohesiveness.
I think a lot of people probably see or had ideas for things that they say to themselves, man, I don't have any experience in, for me, aviation, or I don't have any experience in music, or I don't have any experience in the beverage world. And they say, so they just don't do it. Where to me, I've never let the how am I going to do it get in the way. It's always be like, this is a really cool thing, and I'll figure out the how after. So it's not, I think a lot of people have ideas, they just don't act on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, that word imposter syndrome, I think what's embedded in there is this false idea that you have to somehow be qualified before you do something. Like, hey, no one gave me a license to start a pickle company, right? But I love pickles, and so I just want to do it. Like, you just jump into things that you feel capable of doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that, I have a little bit of a knack for identifying trends, private aviation being one, coconut water being one. And that just comes from me being like thinking about what am I missing in my life? Or, how can I make this a little bit better? Or just being very aware of products and things and hassles and pain points, and then I discovered coconut water because I was training for a 100-mile run, and I was like, what's the best thing to drink? And everything pointed to coconut water. So it wasn't like, oh, and I tried it, I liked it, I learned it a lot. It's so popular in all these other countries. Like, well, why isn't that here?
Mhm.
It's better than all these other drinks. It's one ingredient, it's natural, there's all this potassium, and so it wasn't like it was just more out of necessity and my own need than anything, than me being like, I want to think it, I want to get into the beverage space. Well, that's not how it works.
Yeah, yeah. It's scratching your own itch, or just falling into it by natural, just keeping your eyes open.
Yeah,
And kind of what you said, like 99 out of 100 people are not willing to go for it. And it's sort of, you can do the math and think, well, I'm probably the only one that's willing and able to do this. And so off you go.
yeah, I agree.
Do you find it hard to ask for help? Are you one of these guys that gets a lot of help?
Um, I could delegate more. It's something I'm working on because I just have a hard time asking people to do things for me, but I don't have a hard time asking for help. They're two different things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Asking for help if I'm not good at something or I need advice or someone can help me get from A to B faster, no problem. But delegating, I have a hard time doing.
Yeah, why do you think that is? I mean, again, I relate with that
Just
because
think it's the way I was brought up. My parents carried their own bags, did everything themselves. They didn't outsource anything.
yeah,
And, I saw that my entire childhood. So when I got a little bit luckier in my journey, I had a hard time asking people to, and whenever I take a car service and like, can I carry your bag at the airport to the car? I'm like, no, no, no. Like, why would you do that? It's my
yeah,
bag.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur is you just get used to doing it yourself because no one else is going to do it for you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just necessity,
That's
right?
right.
Uh, is there anything that you wish was like more social acceptable, or acceptable in business that's not happening right now? Like, you know, there's a lot of things are happening. There's this big AI explosion, right? And things are happening quickly, but still, like everything, nothing has changed. It's still about like hard work, last man standing, last woman standing. But like, is there anything that you see sort of as you wish it could be this way and not that way?
Um, I've seen the good and the bad of business, and I've seen a lot of people that are just do so much with good with their companies, their brands, their products. But I've also seen the other side of it. Even just we were talking before the show, I feel really wronged by someone that had a lot of power and just used it for no reason. And just so, but in overall, I think that most people want to help people. Like you asked about asking for help. I think most people respond like they want to help people. When people ask me, like, I want to help people. I can't accommodate every request, every person, but at the heart of me, like, and that's like when I have programs, I try to do it for the masses, webinars for free for everybody, like providing stuff on social that people can benefit for free. Like, I think that's a really important component. Um, I have to think about that a little bit more, Brian. That's a good question.
Without naming names, can you describe the situation that happened? I mean, without sharing too much, that's going to divulge what might not be appropriate to share. But can you, like, for the benefit of the people doing business, like, what happened? And
It had to do with something where I was a loyal customer for years, supporting a company that was through good times and bad times. I was a really loyal customer.
yeah,
And they took something away from me, or right. Let's just imagine I was a customer on an airplane. I'm going to give you, this is not what happened.
Yeah.
And I bought a front row seat, a first class seat for every flight, even when the company was struggling or whatever, I stuck with them. And, but but the seats were subscription based. But then they pulled the seat away from me after I spent a ton of money and supported the company because someone more popular wanted the seat.
right.
That's basically what happened. And, it just doesn't feel good, like without a phone call, like, hey, could you split the seat? Could you share it? Could you do this? So something like that. I'm using that as an example. And it's just like, I don't, like I've never operated like that. So it feels, when you feel wronged in business, in anything, when you feel like, wrong and the people don't care and they're just doing it because they want, like, that just makes me mad.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Here's the other side of me though, Brian. I don't intend to let that go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like people are like, oh, let go of the anger or the grudge. Like that's fuel for me.
Yeah.
That's like, I need that. Like, thank you for being an ass and punching me in the face for for blindsiding me for no reason, because I like to fight back.
Yeah. Now it sounds like that Goggins was, rubbed off on you, like we're life.
For my dad. But yeah.
Yeah. Again, very relatable. Yeah. Going back to that rejection, I think that's a super good lesson to extract here is like, if you keep getting rejected or you keep getting mistreated or used, you can use that as fuel. I think they said, like, the best success or best revenge is success, right?
Yeah.
And in some cases you gotta, the people are keeping track.
And
like, yeah, I haven't forgotten the people who have wronged me.
no.
I have not forgotten, not even one of them.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going. But like I say, man,